Le musico non stanno.
Come? Come non ne stanno? Beh, où sont les musiciens? Mais qu'est-ce que c'est que cette histoire?
Don't worry.
What do you mean, don't worry?
concert...
You know, when somebody tells me don't worry, that's when I really start worrying. Where is the orchestra?
There is not here.
But I don't make a concert if there's
Doesn't matter.
Are you a musician? Do you know what music is?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you coming to the concert?
Yeah.
Yeah? What are you going to do? Sit in the hall? Listen to it?
No,
Yeah.
I would try.
All my life, it seems I've been traveling, a nomad, in search of, I don't know what, beauty, truth.
I mean, for God's sake.
I'm sorry.
How many years did you study? What, you play what, the cello?
Yeah.
How long do you carry it in your back? Did I see you somewhere? Have I seen you before?
Maybe.
I don't know, but your hair is so silky. You're full of silk. Are you coming to the concert?
I will.
I'll tell them the red flame is coming. Our lives, our minds are directed by idiots.
Don't care about them.
You're very sweet. We must meet again. Maybe we will. C'est formidable. Tu sais, c'est facile de diriger, hein? On est là comme ça, et devant, tu suis l'orchestre. Où es-tu? Où vas-tu? Pourquoi? Dis-moi pourquoi. Pourquoi tout ça? No, l'entrata degli artisti dove? È qui, no? Adjani. Buonasera, come va? play the violin or to play any instrument, in fact to do practically anything, is a completely and totally a kind of psychosomatic situation, because it's physical and it's mental, it's emotional, it's visual. You know, like good old Shakespeare said, you know, the whole world's a stage and we are but mere players in it. But he also said, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and he also said, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Now, if you started to play the violin like something like that, and it sounded good, I couldn't care less. I think it might be a little more difficult, you know. I know, I'm always afraid to talk as if I'm talking big about it. I'm not, I really mean it. It really is. Sometimes I really wonder, what the hell are we doing with this monster? No, really. It's the most primitive thing. This I told, sometimes it makes me think of the first aeroplanes at the beginning of the 20th century. They had also strings attached to it, and you know. וזה לא ישתנה, זה, הכינור הזה כמעט 300 שנה. מה? הוא ישתנה? מה נשתנה? אפילו בפסח לא משתנה. No. You know, and what do we do? You know, it's fascinating. If you lose the fascination in research of it, then really it's better to do something else in a way. You know what I mean?
Hey, where is the violinist? She wanted to play for me. Come on. Who's there? קדימה, חבר, החתיכה הזאת ש... If you think of the music, you think of the line of the music. When you say a phrase, when I talk to you, for example, I don't talk to... Hello, Camilla. How are Evelina? How are you? I'm so happy to see you. It's so nice to see you again. I say, hello, Camilla. How are you? So wonderful to see you. You know, you talk. Music's the same. You don't play da 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 dee do dee do boom boom bim bam. You know, that's what you have to aim. When you have this idea in mind, you find the way.
No, es como hablar. O sea, una vez que aprendes, hablas.
Sí, cuando tú hablas, no. No, you think, oh, you know, you speak, you go towards. No, you don't play like that. You know.
I'll start by telling you the story that everybody knows, the joke about. They attribute it to Heifetz.
Questo? No.
After a concert, somebody comes backstage and says, what a wonderful concert that was. But your violin, oh, what a sound, this violin. Right? You put the violin against the ear. See, I don't hear anything. Look, God forbid, I have no right to be pessimistic. I'm neither priest, nor God, nor human being, maybe. I don't know. I'm just a mouth that talks at the moment, yes? But we are becoming numbers. I think we are passing a very difficult moment. I mean, and it's a bad time. We should realize it. And we should realize where it comes from, where it might go to, and where we are in the middle of it. Because I think it's a question of life and death. Yes, I do. Okay? I believe so. And I believe it's very good if we realize that. If we do realize that, we might do something about it. This may be my wish or acceptance or participation in doing what we are doing now is in a way simply what is it to have lived a good part of this bloody, awful, and in some ways wonderful too, century, which is called now the 20th century, which is already a century ago. What does it mean to have lived through that time and happen to be also a fiddle player, a fiddler with a fiddlestick?
Ça, c'était pas mal. Ça, c'est bien. Oui, mais alors. Oui, mais qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Non. Tu laisses tes épaules, le poids de tes épaules, le poids de tes bras, le poids du temps que ça prend de faire un mouvement. Ça doit pouvoir bouger. Après, ça doit pouvoir bouger. Puis ça va. Et puis ça doit être libre. Et le poids doit jouer avec. Parce que le poids te donne le temps. C'est comme le saut d'un animal qui prend son temps et qui connaît son poids et qui connaît sa possibilité et qui sent presque comme un radar là exactement où il va aller. Voilà. C'est simple. Regarde. Lentement, oui. Alors regarde-moi. Lentement. Puis, il y a une chose. Par exemple, si tu fais ça et là, ce n'est pas libre, alors ça ne pourra pas marcher. Parce que ça aussi, ça doit bouger. Si tu tiens ça comme ça, ici, là, ici, comme ça, alors ça tu ne pourras pas le faire. C'est presque comme un ballon. Regarde. Tu vois la différence? Ça veut dire quoi? Tu vois, regarde, tu joues avec tes mains, tu joues avec tes doigts, mais lorsqu'il s'agit vraiment de faire participer tout, ben, il y a des décalages. Pour essayer de diminuer ça, encore une fois la même chose, de même endroit, si tu peux le rejouer, mais sentir le mouvement, le temps que le mouvement prend aussi. Regarde-nous. Regarde. Comme nous. Performance, it should be a living moment. Lovely. That's for sure. And then? To me, it's touching the very crux of living altogether. I mean, what do we do? I mean, to be practical, okay. I'm a violinist, or I'm a shoemaker, or I am a painter, or I am a miller, like my father was. Yeah, but whatever I do. I mean, my work is at home, in a way. I mean, it's in the atelier, in the workshop, where I work on the piece I'm going to sell, okay? If that's what, selling it, fine, all right. But now, once I'm on the stage and selling it, so to say, it's not at that moment that I'm going to practice. And what is the practice? The practice is preparing oneself for life, okay? For life, in other words, living, being on that stage, and living that moment. If I live that moment, then there's no reason, in fact, there would be the contrary of any possible reason for nobody else or anybody else not to feel it. That's what I love about us. It's never the same. Each time it's worse. della sonata di Claude Debussy. Ma comincio con il primo parte e poi vediamo, sì.
Much of the audiences today are also regimented like so many other things. Sometimes they think that they've been told this is right, and if something happens that it's not exactly as was previewed as being the right thing, then they get lost. First of all, what is audience? I mean, audience is you and me and he and she or them. It's a conglomeration of individuals, each one not having exactly the same, necessarily the same way of feeling or thinking. Otherwise, if it's all the same, then it's a dictatorship, and that's what the dictators are to get. In other words, don't think, and we'll think for you. But I think audiences are much more intelligent than we are giving them very often the credit. I'm sorry to say. You know, I mean, you can lie to yourself every day. You can lie to perhaps your friends every day, but you can't lie to everybody all the time, somebody said. Ever since the late 60s, I've lived mostly in Paris. Yes, I live in Saint-Germain-des-Prés, Café de Flore. That's where Giacometti used to come there, and Jean-Paul Sartre and his wife, Simone de Beauvoir. De Beauvoir. Very beau. Everybody said when I said, I live in... Oh, you lucky fellow, it's so wonderful, my God. I mean, you know, I can imagine that. But as a result of living in Paris, I've had the joy of making music with some of the great artists of French musical life, who were my friends.
Comme une pierre que l'on jette dans l'eau vive d'un ruisseau et qui laisse derrière elle des milliers de ronds dans l'eau. Vent des 4 saisons, tu fais tourner le ton sans cesse les voyage autour du monde d'un tournesol dans sa fleur. Tous les moulins de mon cœur.
Est-ce que j'ai besoin de dire qui est Oscar Peterson? C'est vraiment un des plus grands.
Not to mention one or two more unusual collaborations. Well, I was born on August 25th in the last century in Haifa, in the British Mandate of Palestine. And I understood from my mother that it took about 3 days to get me out.
Well, I don't remember this. It used to be a house like this with stones. But
Before they arrived in Palestine, my father and my mother were hardly out of school. Both came from normal, good families, part of the young Hebrew-speaking Zionist movement. I was an only child.
שלום. כשהייתי ילד, אז הייתי גר באחד מהבתים האלה. הרבה שנים אבל. אבל זה היה לפני שהוריך נולדו גם כן. Actually, it was a nice time, that period in that house. I remember my father going to the night shift, you know, already with the what do you call it, with a gun. Well, the gates of heaven. This is paradise. Okay. Yeah, that looks small, I guess.
Why was I born in Haifa? Maybe my parents were too lazy to go anywhere else. Because they arrived on some kind of a rafio, they say in French, like a boat that probably was hardly seaworthy. I mean, when they left Ukraine, part of Russia then, and they crossed the Dniester in the middle of the winter, and it was frozen, so they could walk on it. They were being shot at from the Russian side and from the Romanian side, and there was a passeur, one of the people who was to be paid so and so much to be able to bring them, pass over to the Romanian side, and they stayed there for a while, and then they went from Constanța to Haifa. That was the only port, and it wasn't really a port at that time. It was a kind of a fishing village, more or less, and they were staying there. My parents were true pioneers, actually. They were not forced to leave the Ukraine. although life there was becoming increasingly difficult, they wanted to come to Palestine. They had a vision of what life there might become.
That's my cousin, Moody.
Well, we are here in the big mills of Israel. There used to be big mills of Palestine. The Grand Moulin de Palestine. Atachanot Agdolot. My father, when he arrived here in Haifa in 1921, and he had no métier of any kind, they were building the place. He said, would you like to work here? He became a mason. When they finished, he didn't have a métier still. They asked him, would you like to remain as a miller? So he became a miller. I am the schöne Müller, and there we are. And all his life he was here, always in white. He used to afterwards make me think like the Beep character of Marcel Marceau, all in white. So I used to come and meet him between the machines, and there we are. And used to be an office here.
When he arrived in Palestine, Israel, today, he didn't even have 10 pounds, okay? If he had a few pounds in his pocket, he could have practically bought the whole of the mountain Carmel, and I would be a millionaire's son. I don't know whether I would have liked it or not, but it was really, we could have built a hotel.
I love the sea. I love the sea. I love the sea. Maybe you shouldn't look for the place where that was. Maybe you should look for the place that is, and that is yourself. You can look inside yourself, yes, maybe, but from yourself to yourself, maybe, but not to be like the kaleidoscope of other people. I mean, when young people today tell me they're starting a new piece of music to play, and they're already listening to about 15 different recordings of it before they even start to play it. You understand? But that's crazy. Personally, I don't do that. I do the very contrary. I don't want to listen to anybody else playing it until I have my love affair with it starting. Once it's going on, then I may go shopping, as I say. I might listen, oh, that might be interesting to do this and that. You follow me? So if you said anything to do with my childhood, yes, that is my childhood. And that is what I am. If you had to hit something with that big thing there, through that little hole, boy, somebody will have to have it. Oh, my God. And you should take this picture. Look, come in front of me. Can you take me from there? That's very funny. Do you remember that? Here, take me from front, like this. Except that a few months have passed through. Can you see this? It's a gun. צריכים לראות שזה תותח, חביבי. And I'm sitting on one of Napoleon's guns. And when Napoleon found himself in front of the pyramids, he had a very famous phrase. Du haut de ces pyramides, 40 siècles vous contemplent. From the height of this pyramid, 40 centuries looking at you. Well, who is looking at you now? Huh? Yeah, a little Jewish boy from Haifa playing the fiddle. Yeah,
My first violin was given to me when I was 5 years old, because I wanted the violin. It's not somebody said you must play the violin. I really wanted the violin. Why? Don't ask my mother, because she can't answer you anymore. I wanted the violin. So they all got together, my parents and friends and cousins and others and so forth, and bought me a violin for my 5th birthday.
C'est joli, non? C'est pas joli? Tu veux mettre quel âge tu as? Alors, là, tu prends ça, et ça.
Facile, hein? Rien du tout. Rien du tout. C'est formidable, ça.
Siamo arrivati ancora una volta.
After I had begun having violin lessons, my teacher, Mira Benami, and my mother wanted me to play for one of the greatest violinists of all times, Bronislaw Huberman, who happened to be in Palestine at that time. They found out that he was having a cure on the Dead Sea.
I know, it seems a little difficult to try and imagine going back several decades and to imagine this wonderful craziness of my incredible woman, my mother. My mother. In Jerusalem one day, comes to my teacher, Mira Benami, and says to her, "This is the day." What? Well, that's the day we can get hold of Bronislaw Huberman, you know. Where? In the Dead Sea. Now imagine they took a taxi from Jerusalem. It's already not so easy to get into it now. But imagine that in the 30s, I don't know, something like that. Unbelievable. And they went to the Dead Sea and they arrived at this place, and there were 2 or 3 people there. And there was this man sitting in a chair with his bare foot in the water. In the water. Crazy. And that's what they told him, that there is this young boy, and me, you know. And he said, okay, I'll listen to him. And that's how we went to the King David Hotel, and I played for him. This is a whole kind of, like these mountains, layers of history, you know? You see those things? And,
My first teacher with Adolf Busch, a second one with Auer, who was a teacher of Heifetz, Ellman, all these people, Milstein and so forth. And my third important one, that was Mira Benami, was a pupil of Sigeti. And there we are. So there we are, and that's how it started. We don't call it the Dead Sea, and for me it certainly wasn't the Dead Sea. It's called the Salt Sea. And with a little pepper, a little bit of pepper with a little bit of pepper, and a little bit of salt with it. And what do you get there? A fiddler on the roof.
Later, when I was about 12, with the help of musicians, actors, poets, enough money was raised for us to take the boat for my first visit to France. And there, I studied with the great French violinist, Jacques Thibault.
Appear with a kind of dressing gown, yes, of some kind, slightly shabby like that, and you would have a cigarette hanging from his mouth, and he would take the violin and play, and that was the lesson. Some people take the violin and they start to play. He didn't have to play, it played. He talked to you. That somebody said about Chaliapin, that he sang like he talked. Well, Thibault played like he talked. Or he talked like he played, or like his breathed. And that was, in a way, the lesson. Yes, he might have told me this or that and that, but he lived it with you. Can you play this? Tai. Our first instrument is not the violin, it's not the piano, it's us. It's our body, our whole thing. And you have to learn how to, this is your first instrument. This is the thing with which you are going to play the violin, maybe. For example, let your hand down. Completely. No resistance. Yeah, what I wanted to say simply, all right, I'll say something very simple. Our hands, our arms, do not start here, do not start there. They start from here. Everybody is here, so nothing can happen. It's official. Give me your hand, your fingers. On va se marier pour 2 minutes. Voilà, comme ça. Regarde. Et pose, let your arm lean on mine. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, but you... There, this feeling. No. Yeah. Tu vois, là, tu bloques. Hein?
Non,
yeah.
Pas une.
Yeah. Well, you... Yeah. No, leave it. No, it was all right for a minute, but... No. The weight from here on. Yeah. Okay, I'll take my fiddle and I'll show you.
I understand.
You understand?
Yes.
Yeah. If you touch me here, you can all touch me. I love being touched. No, but from touch me from here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You see?
Yeah.
Huh. You want to touch?
They talked about Paganini, that they never saw him practice really. And you don't have any cadences by Paganini because he didn't want apparently anybody else to know these things. So he used to maybe improvise it whatever it is. But somebody says a story like that one day, somebody went behind the door and looked through the keyhole, what was Paganini doing? And instead of practicing, he was miming the movements. And maybe it's not true, the story, but maybe it could be true, and I can understand that. You can almost choreograph your movements. But there are some technical things which are fairly normal, and the situation of playing the violin is not so meshuggah, not so crazy. You know, I mean, there are certain things which are practical.
For example, when you have a high bridge under your chin,
you cannot but play on the violin. Because if you, suppose I press here, you know what happens, you know. And if I do this, so in fact you can do more with the bow like that, but you can't lean on the violin. Look what happened, I can't do it. And I lean on the violin too. And I know a few others who do. Like very, very gifted young violinist called Yasha Heifetz. Did you know him? Very good. And he once told me something funny, you know. We were having a sandwich together, which is, people said it was quite something, because many people said when you go to see Heifetz, you have to bring your own sandwich. But that's not true. He shared one with me. Anyway, I loved him. And he said to me something funny. He said, you know, Ivry, he says, I press my fingers. Even when I play fast, I, really play into it. Because, and he said something funny. He said, because if I don't believe in what I do, why should anybody else? So music is your problem, yours, and anyway, I think any one of us who starts to play the violin is a person who has not only the right, but almost, I would say, the duty to give out of this music what really he or she really can find. But they have to be honest enough with themselves to go to the very bottom of whatever they can really feel inside. Yeah. I had a very good friend who was a great violinist. He's called Nathan Milstein, who is adorable. I mean, we're very, very close friends. And there was a fauteuil like that, an armchair, with very deep like that. And he came one night to dinner, and he took my fiddle, like that, and started to play the Mephisto Waltz. You know this arrangement by him of Mephisto Waltz? You know, he was, and play like that, because he played every time I saw him, he was always looking for something new fingerings, new this and that, till the end. He was the youngest violinist I've ever known, until the end. He was, was 87 or something, so I still have a few years. I mean, how can you play a piece each time the same way? How can you see, I don't know, a cathedral or a tree or a lake with the same look every time? It would be terrible. Your eyes are not the same during the day. Your mind and the color, yes. And your tears.
Okay. King David Hotel. Shalom. איזה כובע נהדר. שלום. דגה. וגה. לא, אני לא צריך חדרים, אני יודע בדיוק איפה שזה היה. Here, that was here. That's the place. That's the place. Out of this window, I don't remember that there was a window here. I think this was closed. But there was this place here. There was like a little salon, I think this was, and there was Bronislaw Huberman, a living legend. Bronislaw Huberman was not only a very great violinist who played for Johannes Brahms. When he was 4 years old, was 5 years old, he played for him the Brahms violin concerto. And he, in 1936, created what was then the Palestine Philharmonic Orchestra and became the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. Bronislaw Huberman was like Pavarotti in a way, or like the Beatles. People would queue nights to get a ticket for his concerts, And I remember, I think one of the very first time I've ever heard the Tchaikovsky violin concerto was with him. And there are one or two passages which I still, whether I like it or not, that's the way I play it, kind of thing, you know what I mean? The last move, that's from him, kind of thing. Why do you play it so fast? But that's the way I feel it, like that. Or he felt it. A man like Chrysler, people were, at that time, not just violinists, not just shoemakers or cooks. He was destined to be a doctor, and he studied to be a doctor. In order to play this magic thing called the violin with 4 strings attached to it and 47 different pieces of wood and with a bow with a horse's tail,
you have to be many other things, which become somehow through the prism of the violin and comes out as something that you and I and everybody and you and you and you can feel and hear. Otherwise it's not worth doing it. But these masters were not people who were telling you do that or don't do that. I was very lucky, I must say. I appreciate it now more than ever. You know, the fact that I had some of these masters, some of these people, okay, real people, like Georges Enesco, like Jacques Thibault, like meeting a man like Huberman. And when I was a child, there was another legendary boy, a man called Yehudi Menuhin, you know. And all the mothers of little Jewish boys and girls, you know, Yehudi Menuhin. When talking about tradition, we don't want to be so too traditional. What does it mean? Why do they think that tradition is something stultified? It's not a stultification. It's not the Lot's wife who became salt. No. And tradition can be just the, you know. In fact, I think it was Chrysler who said something. The only tradition he knows about, or the only rule he knows, is to have no rule. So I think great performers, I don't like this word, but all right, great creators of the sound as it comes live the moment, and when you live that moment, it's never exactly the same as the moment before or the moment after, and that one has to understand. My son Jonathan, and that's his woman, Anne, and that's their little daughter, my granddaughter, who's Emma. And that's my son David. And that's Leah Jane, L-Y-A, love you always. And his woman, Elodie, like Melody, but she took the mem away. Melody, Elodie, Melody, Elodie. And that's me right in the middle, you know, as I said, between two. So I feel like Samson between the two columns, you know, in front of the pharaohs. Wait, you know, Samson, when he was the prisoner of Delilah, and then he said, for the last time, he said, God, give me the last strength for the last time, so I can let my soul die with the Philistines, you know. Phyllis, you know Phyllis Stein, you know, the Stein family.
I'm a man of love, just in the street, trash. Je tiens à vous présenter ce monsieur, c'est l'un des plus grands violonistes du monde. C'est vrai. Il s'appelle Ivry Gitlis, il est avec nous. Ça fait plaisir quand même, non?
Alors maintenant, je peux vous dire aussi quelque chose. Pour moi, c'est une drôle d'expérience ce soir, parce que celui-là... Et celui-là, lui, il s'appelle David, l'autre s'appelle Jonathan, et moi, je l'ai vu naître, puisque ce sont mes fils.
I personally am attracted and like things and for people to a situation whereby the things are not finished. I don't know whether Schubert really didn't want to finish the symphony or didn't come to the end of it. But I think it's a nice thing to have the unfinished symphony in some ways. I mean, the idea of, experienced people who know already everything. You know what I mean?
And that's maybe why I like children so much. That's also perhaps one reason why I love to travel. I need to travel to explore those countries. Bolivia, for example. The salt flats of Bolivia. The middle of nowhere. With its abandoned trains. Its llamas. It's cacti. Places that have not been polluted with what we call civilization yet, and where their own traditions of music making, folk music if you like, music of the people, have not been corrupted by Western pop music yet. And maybe we can learn from those traditions as well, because maybe those traditions really are living the moment.
I feel here with these sort of people, and I say these sort of people not in any pejorative kind of way. I mean it with the people who are hungry for something. I like people who are hungry for something, not for food only. You know? I like people who are in the making. I don't like people who are finished kind of thing, or think they are finished.
Of course, the other reason we came to Bolivia was to give concerts. We were, to put it mildly, a mixed bunch. French, Israeli, American, German, and Russian.
Yeah, you understand? Yeah. Okay. His face, son visage. Looks like a violinist. I mean, I'll tell you something. I could make a violinist out of him. He's a wonderful face. I mean, it's a beautiful face. Hold it.
When I left first time Israel, Palestine at the time, and we went from Jaffa, there was no port in Jaffa. So there was a little rowing boat, you know, with an Arab rower who was dressed like an Arab, and there were two other people also in the boat, English undoubtedly, and she was wearing one of those hats with a kind of a, you know, shawl like this, like a scarf that you see, I don't know, out of Africa, kind of imagine, I don't know, Meryl Streep or something. Very elegant white, and he very all in white. And we were kind of natives. I mean, they didn't talk to us. Obviously, we were not of the same, you know. So finally we get to the boat, and the stairs to go up to the boat come to the end of the deck there, and we had to go down another deck and another deck and another, and then it smelled. There was a smell like, you can't imagine, and we went to a hall, and we got to the room where there were 12 beds. In other words, 3 up here, 3 up there, 3 up here, and 3 up there, and there was one little hall through which you could see a little glimpse of light, and that was, you know. And from there I could more or less imagine my poor father still waving from the far, you know, little by little disappearing. And yesterday, as we took that boat, I suddenly had the same feeling. It's very strange. Makes me ready. I'm sorry, but it really does.
I didn't see my father again for over 18 years.
You see, I was with my mother in France, and on the 3rd of September, 1939, when the war was declared, in fact, I was in Saint-Jean-de-Luz on the Basque coast. We were spending the summer with Jacques Thibault. So we got stuck, of course, in France because we couldn't... we spent the winter in France, this funny war, as they call it, la drôle de guerre, this period between September and until the 10th of May, when the Germans invaded Holland, Belgium, and then France. I mean, nobody could imagine this kind of collapse, I mean, like a patch of card. And we were in Paris. Just 2 days before the Germans got into Paris, Jacques Thibault said, why don't you come to Bayonne? And you only have to take what you can carry with your hands and so forth. I had a little attaché case in which I put, I don't know, drawings and things I wrote and things like that. My mother, as a kind of an eternal refugee, managed to get utensils from the kitchen and things like that. And by hook and by crook, I don't know how we got there. There was a little train. There was a nice young couple were driving in an open car because it was summer. You know, it was completely surrealist. The Germans were already about 50 kilometers away. We arrived in Bayonne, and that was an unbelievable sight. I mean, thousands of people from all over the place, I mean, who, you know, with their baggages and things, absolutely desperate and so forth. And there was this boat. A boat which was supposed to take 500 people. We were finally 4,500 on it. It was the last boat which was leaving for England, and the boat before us, the boat behind us, was torpedoed. We could see all the pieces on the water. And we arrived in Portsmouth, I think. And Portsmouth was being bombed, so we couldn't get into Portsmouth.
So that's how I came to be in London during the war, until I finally landed back in France, in Paris. Of course, we were primarily in Bolivia to make music.
Well, you shouldn't practice too much because it goes well like that. I don't know what would happen if you practiced. I tell you what happened to me with this concerto. The first time I played it was for a recording. Then 2 months later I made my debut in New York with the New York Philharmonic, and George Sell was conducting with this concerto, first time in public. With, you know, you have to be really sugar, you know what that means? Nuts, you know, really. But the first time, and the first time I found myself playing this really with orchestra was at the recording. It was in Concertsaal in Vienna with the Vienna Symphony, and Jascha Hornstein was a great conductor, you know. And suddenly I found myself, you know, with this theme, this beginning there, with its 100 musicians around me, and I hear this, and, and I practiced it, of course, and I've heard the concerto before. Some people hear it like, and then I find myself in the middle of this thing there with this musician, and suddenly, I don't know, I started to play it practically with no vibrato, like I felt it was coming from somewhere else. Imagine, at Lake Ladoga, in Finland, and Sibelius has become Frankenstein, or comes, and he said, yeah, it was it's something, out of the woods there, this ice there. You see, almost coming out of there, almost imperceptible, You could almost say it like that. You see, even in a phrase like that, all right, it's not really da-da-da, da-da-da, but the phrase is da-da-da, it's not da-da-da, 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 no. You don't have to do more than that if you know where you go there, All right, it's a cliche. If the music is not there to give you the idea, then what's the point of, you can learn to play staccato, schmiccato, caccato, laccato, laccatos. Anybody here knows what I'm talking about? No. That's why it's so important and interesting to listen to some recordings which are coming out now of 60, 70, 80, 90 years ago of some of these extraordinary musicians, pianists, violinists, singers, and conductors too. Everybody says the technique of violin playing, piano playing is so much better now than ever. But excuse me, if you listen to some of the violinists and pianists of even before the First World War, and afterwards, then, because they have the virtuosity of the soul. Yes, they are shaping with the soul, and the fingers follow. And we are following, most of the time, we are following the fingers.
How can you go through here? Well, you have to go. It's all Sabbath, you know.
Come, be careful your hand. Funny enough. Well, do you need any lights here? Huh?
No, we're okay.
But that's very cool here. Like that. So. It's a funny house, no? And this here, you go on to the farm. Well, it's all abandoned at the moment. And here you have the barn. You want to see it? From here? No. Really? It's an unfinished symphony.
Some house.
Huh?
Some house.
It's a very strange house. It has a, I don't know, it has a soul to it somewhere, I don't know.
No, I know what you mean.
It's inhabited without people necessarily, but... And here there used to be a balcony, but it was all fell down. Yeah, and look at this rather extraordinary kind of roof.
Oh, it's very beautiful what he said. I said, he m'a dit, I'm a Tunisian. I said, no, I'm a man. He says, I'm a free man. Un homme libre. No, écoute, c'est merveilleux, ça.
My first encounter with Africa was over 40 years ago. I said to them, I'll come and play for them, you know. And they had a kind of a hall there with a platform, with a stage and so forth. And suddenly I found myself on a stage with about 400 boys and girls. I mean, the first really black audience I've ever had in my life. I mean, it was something very, you know, the text like this, because, I mean, you know, black audience. it was sort of emotionally. And I was alone. There was no piano. There was, you know, so I started to play the chaconne by Bach. And I was doing the first 2 or 3 or 4 chords, and there was sort of a murmur, became a kind of a hurricane of laughter. You know? So I stopped and went off the stage, and the people said, why did you stop? I said, well, it's obviously not my day, kind of thing, you know. I said, but you don't understand, you know, it did something to them here, kind of thing, and that's the way they react. They were like negatives, film negatives, in the sense that whatever you imprint or got imprinted in it would have been there. Not like us, who are born already with bombardments of all kinds of things that come across us and so forth, and we have to spend our life kind of taking all the things out so that we can become naked again. I mean, it's funny, we got out of the Garden of Eden where we were naked, and then now we are all trying to get back to the Garden of Eden. Well, this is the island of Gorée, and it is here, and from here, it's hundreds of thousands and millions of black African, were sent and made into slaves and built the world for us. You know? Well, les différents compartiments ici.
Voilà. Alors,
oui.
Alors tout le marché était conclu entre les deux escaliers. Vous avez un fer à cheval dans la cour. C'est là où se passait la dernière vente en Afrique.
La dernière
vente en Afrique se passait ici. Entre les deux escaliers en fer à cheval. Accoudé au balcon, l'acquéreur, marchand d'esclaves européens. Ces esclaves, des affranchis, les palpaient comme du bétail.
Yeah, they used to kind of touch them
to decide who lived and who died, more or less. Sounds familiar.
Here they used to also keep those who were slightly rebels.
Alors ça, c'est un fenêtre. Parce que les fenêtres que vous avez là ont été percées après l'abolition de l'esclavage par la France en 1848.
And the price of women depended on their what kind of bosom they had and their virginity.
Alors au niveau même
de ces young girls were of course more expensive.
Voilà, au niveau même de ces esclaves, parce que toute maison comme celle-ci, en bordure de mer à Gorée, est une ancienne esclaverie. Vous aviez certains négriers qui avaient rapport avec des jeunes filles esclaves.
Oui.
Parce qu'à partir de cette porte, venant sur la mer, pour les esclaves, c'était du Afrique. Alors à partir de cette quai, de cette porte, il y avait un wharf.
Il y avait
un wharf, un quai.
Hein?
Un quai.
Un quai, oui.
En bois de palmier qui servait d'embarcadère.
Uh-huh.
Alors au moment des embarquements, certains esclaves tentaient de s'évader en plongeant.
Oui.
Mais ils ne pouvaient aller loin ou abattus par les gardiens africains qui étaient figés devant les créneaux ou dévorés par les requins. Et pourquoi les requins? Parce que malades ou agonisants étaient jetés à la mer. Et cela attirait ce requin.
Mm-hmm.
It's reckoned that many millions walked along here to be transported they knew not where, wives separated from husbands, children separated from their mothers, exiled from their homeland forever, refugees, nomads, slaves. My mother in some ways, an exile, a refugee, a nomad. I myself, in some ways, a refugee, a nomad, like a wandering medieval troubadour. What a tradition!
Regarde. Look at their faces. There's one, but two. Non! Non, viens. Donne-moi ta main, donne. Mais oui, faut pas avoir peur. Non, c'est rien. Non, attends. Non. Non, donne-moi ta main. Viens ici, viens là. Viens ici. Là, pas dessus, oui. Non, pas s'asseoir. Non, pas, parce que c'est... Non, mais non. Regarde. C'est votre fils.
Here in Senegal, each village also has its troubadours, minstrels, ballad singers, storytellers called griots or griots, who, like their medieval predecessors, improvise in song and dance whatever they think is of interest. In this case, my visit.
s'asseoir. Non, mais j'ai dû laisser ma boîte de violon. Si. Non, vous savez, je vous
interdis de...
Non. Mais il a très bonne position, qu'est-ce qu'il raconte?
Mais monsieur Bell, on peut faire ça pour garder pour nous.
Mais il a un vibrato en plus. Non, attendez. Non, mais écoutez, vous savez est-ce que... Oui.
Je vais vous dire une chose, ça fait 50 ans que je n'ai pas touché.
Mais ça, vous savez, c'est comme la bicyclette. Monsieur le Président, c'est la première fois que j'aurai un président de la République comme élève. Alors, c'est quoi? Hein? Quoi? Non, laissez. Non, relaxez. Non, laissez. Non. Laissez-le comme si c'était inerte. Voilà. Ça, c'est bien. Vous savez, il n'y a pas de barrière là-dedans. Malheureusement, à l'Ouest, dans l'Occident, soi-disant, on est bombardé tellement constamment par des tas de trucs. On est déjà avec un amas de choses qu'il faut passer sa vie à se débarrasser. Je pense que vous avez ici une chance extraordinaire, une chance difficile. Mais parce qu'il y a quelque part, je sais qu'il y a beaucoup de difficultés, je sais très bien qu'il y a beaucoup de problèmes. Toujours, c'est normal, mon Dieu. Et bon.
Quand nous sommes allés trouver l'éditeur m'a dit non, il faut le faire en livre. Alors, c'est là que j'ai écrit ce livre. Alors, à la fin de ce livre, j'avais créé un hymne que j'appelle l'hymne à l'Afrique. L'hymne de l'Afrique.
Accourons sauver l'Afrique, voici les Africains, à l'appel de la patrie, voici le Sénégal.
C'est quelque chose qui est étonnant ici parce que on dit que l'Afrique, il y a beaucoup de problèmes, les gens ont beaucoup de problèmes, mais quand on voit les gens avec le sourire, ils ont une joie de vivre. C'est quelque chose d'extraordinaire qui contredit complètement ce qu'on montre et ce qu'on dit de l'Afrique. Parce que bon, la pauvreté, les gens qui sont fatigués et tout, ça ne fonctionne pas économiquement pour eux, ils s'en sortent pas. Et dès que tu viens, tu vois des gens bien habillés, avec le sourire, une joie de vivre. Et ça, c'est extraordinaire. Mais les problèmes ne manquent pas. Mais bon, Ça, c'est quand même un acquis extraordinaire.
Si benn mbaar ci dëkk bi ñi ngi làkkatu woon di xool li nga xamante ni mbir yaa ngi doon wàññeeku bi jolol yu nekk ci xew diri ci taw bi ngelaw biru jolol yu leer nekk ci kawam di gàddi di riir ngir di mag di yëngu ngir di loob di yëngu ki ñi ñàkk chance ñi ñu fàtte ñi ñu woor di yëngu ngir ñi ñu beddi ñàkk ku làkk muy dundee it based upon the chimes of freedom passion.
Ivry Gitlis, c'est un grand violoniste.
I am Jewish. And for 2,000 years, Jews have been in exile, colonized, nomads. But what is it to be Jewish? If it's an accumulation of all that has happened to me, to us, in our exile,
then I am Jewish. Of course, and of course I am. And I'm very concerned, I'm very strongly feeling about what's going on all around. But I'm concerned with it not only as a Jew or not only as in relation to Israel and to the Jewish people. I'm concerned with it in relation to the world in general, to life itself and to the story of humanity, the story of the earth, the story of the very existence of creativity. But the most important symbol as far as Judaism, whether it is religious or otherwise, that exists is this wall, which is a wall also. And you know the word Hebrew, Ivry, over, comes from the word over is somebody who is passing. I don't know if it's clear what I want to say. I'm not clear what I want to say. But the same sense, if I take the violin I'm going to play, I cannot decide that I'm going to play. I mean, while I play, it's a journey. And during that journey, I might discover other things. So it is part of our journey, but our human journey. We are in King George Street, King George V, that's it. And that's the house, and this little balcony, the last one on top there, that's where I lived with my mother. It's very funny also. It is, oh my God, yes. וזה הבלקון האחרון פה. שלום. שלום. תסלח לנו שאנחנו... אבל זה סנטימנטל ג'ורני. הם עושים סרט עליי, ואפשר לראות, אפשר להביט ב... Oh my God, isn't it something? אבל זה שיניתם זה כל.
כן, זה הכל שופץ,
God, I can't believe it. And I would know everything about her life. And I mean really practically everything, which is a lot for a young boy of 8, which was not my role to have. But you see, that's the discrepancy and this how do you say it, dichotomy, so to say, in the life of a child like that. That especially children whose parents are not necessarily together, and they live with one or the other, whereby the mother sort of would consider me like a grown-up, like a friend kind of thing in a way, like a colleague, so to say, in life, when it was useful for her or for them, in general. And then at the moment when it wasn't, then I was nothing, I was just a little child, you understand? And this situation is terrible, because I could not understand it. Why? You know, do you follow me? I mean, you know, when we were in France and we had no money, I had a bicycle which she bought to me, and she needed the money. She sold the bicycle. She didn't ask me, but I wanted to be sold. This is the announcement of the burying, I mean the funeral of my mother. Ivry Gitlis. Chedva means joy. And it says, with a broken heart and much sorrow, we announce the death of my wife, my mother, our sister, and our sister-in-law. And you know, and the funeral will start such and such a time on the 29th of August, 45, 4 days after my birthday. You see, and here it says, those are the mourners. Her husband, Asher, her son, Isaac Gitlis, because my name was Isaac Gitlis, Isaac, Haifa and London. I was in London. And that's her brother, her sister, etc., etc., etc. But here you see there is a kind of a hole. And here, of course, written Asher Gitlis, that's my father, and Isaac Gitlis. And my father used it. I couldn't believe it in a way. Used it as to put on the little card, you see, on the door, saying, here lives, on his door in his apartment. I mean, we weren't that poor, but it stays in your life. As my grandmother used to say something, umgerührt ist verfallen. You touched it, it's finished. You've got to finish and eating it, you know, kind of thing. It was not, you know. And, well, my father used this to put on the door. Here it is. That's Barzilai. Barzilai, Barzilai. Yeah. That's it. מה את עושה פה, חביבלה? למה את שוכבת פה? תגידי לי. God save my soul. I can't believe it somehow. It's written here like that. Mrs. Lady, oh man. Ivry Gitlis, daughter of Yitzhak Meir Segal from Kamenetz-Podolsk. Died באלול, לא יודע איזה שעת. It's Hebrew letter, Hebrew year, T-Sha. And here it's written she was 44 years old. That was the whole thing, you see. She said she was born in 1904. My father said she was born in 1901. We have a really funny, crazy... So it's here written like that. Well, I believed my mother. I don't know, who cares? Anyway, she was somewhere between 41 years old and 44 years old. This short interval between one non-being and a second non-being. I wish I could believe in afterward, but I don't know anybody who came back from that. Anyway. Oh, God.
What's your best memory of your mother?
None. I would say none in a way. And everything in a way. I mean, we used to fight. We had a lifetime of fight. That was our life. We used to vomit each other out somehow, in some way. Lovingly, hatingly, same thing. That's the whole essence of my being with an instrument called the violin, because I cannot play it falsely. I can play false notes. But I cannot play with it like I can't play with life. I mean, no. I can't play with her. I love her and I hate her. I hate her for having left me, too. So early. What the hell? She could have waited another 6 months. You know, I don't know whether the tears that come out in this situation, is it for her or for them who have gone already, or for us who are only on the way? I don't know. You understand? All right, we can go and look for my father.